You. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for another youorns 10-minute take on Watford nil, MK Dons 2 in the Carabao Cup at the Vic. Well, all I have to say about this particular display is this: what an utterly pants performance. This has been the youorns. No, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you. Now, I could have ended it right there. I could have ended this particular 10-minute take in record, quick, lightning fast time. And I'm sure that you would probably have completely understood why I could have ended it there. You wouldn't have had any complaint about that if I had just left it at that and then said, this has been the youorns 10-minute take. No, you wouldn't have a problem with it. But I'm going to say a few more things about what happened in this particular match. Now, most of us did not get to see this match at the Vic on Tuesday night. Most of us did not get to because, well, more than 8,000 and change of us who did go to see this were on the periphery. We're rather at home listening on the Hive live service of Watford Football Club. Thank you, Watford, for providing that service. Appreciated. Or we just didn't give two tosses about it. But we do care. We do care about what we see on the field. We do care. And we, I think, as Watford supporters, deserve better than this. Now, I know every club has problems with this, that, or the other. Every club has its fan base, some of whom do not like what the owner's doing, do not like what the chairman's doing, do not like what the technical or sporting director's doing. I get that. This, for me, is not about whether I like someone or don't like someone. Not for me personally, because I happen to think that the people at Watford Football Club are actually good people. Again, I've said this before on this YouTube channel, and I will continue to say that. I don't think they're malevolent. I don't think they have evil designs. That's not where I'm going with any of this. I think what you've got are decent people at a club, some of whom are not making the kinds of decisions that seem to sit well with, not just seem to sit well, that frankly don't sit well with a sizable portion of the Watford supporter base. That's what's going on here. And you can look no further than the youorns WFC Twitter space that I held after this particular contest. There were a number of Watford supporters who, in no uncertain terms, had some very critical questions, raising very critical questions and very valid questions about what's going on at this club, whether it's with the Hassan Camara situation, where a £16 million sale, according to Andrew French at the Washington, as I keep saying Washington, at the Watford Observer, who covered the story well and gave us that information about Camara heading off to Udinese at season's end as part of this situation, and there's going to be a £16 million sale. And Udinese, by the way, is one of the two clubs that Gino Pozzo owns. The other one, of course, is Watford Football Club. He once owned Granada. He sold that off, I believe, to Chinese investors a few short years ago, and now he's down to the two clubs. And there were people, and I really, by the way, urge you to listen to that youorns Twitter space from the post match right after Watford versus MK Dons. I've included a link of it with this video, and it will only be available for 30 days. So I urge you, if you have Twitter, go listen to this. There's a link on this video. You just look in the area where the video is and the comments that are written underneath the video. There will be a link there that you can see. Click on that link and listen to that youorns Twitter space. You're going to hear from a number of Watford fans. You're going to hear from me, but you're going to hear from another number of Watford supporters who raised some very, I think, valid and critical questions about the situation with the money. Now, I'm not going to go into the money and everything in depth. We all know that Watford is a club that has some financial sensitivity. I'll put it the nice way. It is a delicate financial situation at Watford Football Club. And obviously, there are some things that need to be done. Books need to be balanced. Keeping things solvent as best as possible needs to be done. All kinds of different not factions or fractures, all kinds of different compartmentalizations need to be done when you're dealing with running a football club. Now, look, I've never, ever, 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 ever run a football club in my life. I know, however, from those who do and from interviews and things of that nature, that it's a very stressful enterprise. I know that. I don't need to know that from interviews. Anything business wise is inherently stressful. I have a business of my own, by the way. But the fact of the matter is that I don't get to manage millions of pounds. I don't get to move around millions of pounds. There's an owner at Watford Football Club who does, and he has to make some very delicate and serious calculations. Now, what some of the fans are raising, I think, are very important concerns. And what we really want is for someone to let us know what's going on exactly. Let us know what's going on. That's really the hallmark of things. We don't want to overrun the football club. That's not what we're doing. We as fans are entitled to raise critical questions. We are entitled, really, to constructively criticize, and we certainly should, and are more than entitled to praise, as I do, when the club does things right. I point back as an example to what the club does right. One of the things it does right is what it did during the year earlier this year when it actually lowered season ticket prices, either froze those prices or lowered them. And I think they lowered them, if I remember correctly. And that was something that we all said thank you to Gino and to Scott and everybody at Watford FC for doing. That was a very considerate thing to do. It really was. And I'm forever grateful for that. Obviously, the season ticket holders are forever grateful for that as well. What we're seeing at the moment is troubling with what's going on financially. And, people were kind of scratching their heads around this camera situation. And so that's where anyway, I don't want to say any more about it. You really have to listen to this youorns WFC Twitter space uh, that I put a link to. Really should, and listen to it before it runs out and disappears after 30 days. Very important. But as for this performance has been coming. This performance has been coming for a while. Quite frankly, you could make a case that performance has already come. What I really mean is this result has been coming for a long time. A League One team. Let me make that a League One team that is third from bottom of League One. Come into the Vicarage Road, come into the Vic last night and absolutely tore us a new one. And from the commentary I listened to, Tommy Mooney alongside John Marks, from what I heard, there was frustration in that crowd at the Vic. The Watford fans were not having it. I heard some fans cursing out Raymond swearing out. You could hear it through the microphone. Very upset with Raymond upset with this one and that one. Gaspar was an absolute joke last night. Terrible. I even heard Tommy Mooney say, and Tommy Mooney said this on the broadcast tonight. He said, well, last night, tonight here, but last night in Watford, because I know it's Wednesday now at the time this is being recorded. But Tommy Mooney, a former Watford player, we know Tommy Mooney very well. And Tommy Mooney even said this. He said, Yasser Aspria was extremely, and this is a quote now, quote, was extremely poor. Quote, was extremely poor. And I got to tell you, Tommy Mooney put the emphasis on the word extremely. I mean, that gives you an idea for Tommy Mooney to say that about one of the Watford players. And this is a Watford legend. Tommy Mooney is a Watford great. And for him to be saying that on the commentary during that game against MK Dons tells you just about everything you need to know. I could sense the frustration in Tommy Mooney's voice listening to this from here in California. And it's very clear to me that he wasn't pleased with the performance. It was poor. It was terrible, the performance. And much of their side was unchanged. I mean, 5 or 6 changes were made, but half the side was the side that played against Preston the other day. And as I said, this result was coming. This is the result that should have happened against West Brom. Instead of that being a 2-0 to West Brom, it was a 1-1. So there were 2 goals scored, but they were shared between the two teams. Tonight was the result that should have happened against West Bromwich Albion. Watford were lifeless last night. I keep saying that. I'll switch. You'll hear me say tonight and last night. Don't pay any too much attention to that. You know the game I'm talking about. It's Watford against MK Dons. But last night, Watford were poor. MK Dons had more shots on target. I think Watford may have had 1 shot on target in the first half. We have a critical condition with our strikers. Both of them are in a critical condition at the minute. They cannot get their shooting boots on. We average less than 1 goal a game in the championship. And we overall, including this game, average even less than that because we didn't score in this game either. So that's now 2 consecutive games without scoring. We didn't come close to scoring. Bakun Bio is just not getting it done. I'm sorry. I know he's just started. I get it. And I still think that he might come good, and I think he will. But right now, he is not getting it done. Another chance for the 3rd consecutive game. He has a good chance from what I listened to, and he just did not strike the ball with any authority. I can't believe that this is the same striker who scored 11 in 16 with his previous club. Where is that Bakun Bayer? Haven't seen him since he's come to Watford. Now, look, he has done excellent running. He has worked very hard. He's put in a shift. He's worked well both sides of the ball. He has been someone who is finding space. But when it comes to that end product, that big part at the end to put the ball in the back of the net, he just can't do it. He has been given gaping opportunities to do it, and he's not been able to do it so far. Now, I hope that changes. I'm going to keep pushing for him and rooting for him. Raymond Eyes had his goal at Birmingham City, but he too has not been able to find the back of the net with any consistency. He had those 2 chances against Preston, didn't get it done. Game against MK Dons, didn't get it done. Nobody got it done. The only 2 bright spots from that game against MK Dons was Ken Sema and Adrian Blake. I had incorrectly said his name was Austin Blake, and I apologize to you, Adrian. Adrian Blake, the academy member, he's just like 17 years of age, and he come on there, and you could hear in the commentary, the commentators, John Marks and Tommy Mooney, very pleased with Adrian Blake, made a very good impression from the sounds of things, as did Ken Sema from the sounds of things. Those are the only 2 Watford players on the pitch on the night who seemed to really care or really have a purpose when they were on that pitch. The rest, give or take. I mean, people were booing Dan Gosling. I mean, Dan Gosling was in Talk Sport and other places making comments about how poor things were at Watford. Well, I tell you what, and that he was talking about last season. I tell you what, things were very poor at Watford last night, let alone last season. Never mind last season. I mean, Dan Gosling was booed. I mean, as far as I could hear, that's what it sounded like to me. Losing the ball in midfield, he was a fright. I mean, I don't shouldn't really be singling out anybody. It's the whole team. Gaspar atrocious. You know, Espria didn't know what he was up to. You know, the whole 9 yards. I know Pollock. You know, he had his debut, but nobody distinguished themselves except these 2 subs. And Rob Edwards, to credit to him, took full responsibility after the game. And that is what we want to see. But it's not Rob Edwards' fault. Rob Edwards is only doing what he's given to do. He's only putting out there what's been given to him to put out there. And that's the issue that some Watford fans are concerned about. And I'm concerned about it too. What's happening with these players? Nobody new is really being brought in except for these players that I'm about to mention. Keenan Davis, very good pickup from the board. Thank you. Also, Hamza Chowdhury, very good pickup from the board. Thank you. Also, Courtney House, very good pickup from the board. Thank you. Now, these are loans. These are loan players. right? Because that's all we can function on now. And we've got what, roughly a week left of this transfer window before it shuts. And we are wondering, where are these players coming from? We cannot get this done with Vakun Bio and Raymond I. That those two alone are not going to cut it. Keenan Davis isn't match fit yet. We hope and expect that he will round into shape very soon. And he will be definitely an important part of all this. But even with the three of them, you still need others to supplement that front line. We know that João Pedro is going to be out the door. Listen, you can choose to trust Fabrizio Romano, as I do, or you can choose not to do that. But the fact of the matter is, João Pedro is finished at Watford. He is not going to play any more games there. He is not. He wants the move. I think Watford fans are fully aware of this. João Pedro wants the move to Newcastle. It's been reported all over the place. It's all over the place. The Times of London reported it. It's been reported in a number of other publications, including in the Athletic UK, Adam Leventhal and company. João Pedro wants to leave. So once a player wants to leave, no one's going to stop him from leaving. The club can't hold him back. It would be a very toxic atmosphere. So João Pedro's gone. So you can choose to agree or believe Fabrizio Romano or not. Don't really matter, actually. But Fabrizio's going to end up being correct anyway, because João Pedro is walking out. Bye bye. He wants to go. And you can't keep a player that doesn't want to play for you anymore. That is not a good thing. So, as far as that's concerned, João Pedro's gone. Saar may still be gone. It's so interesting because now we're hearing that maybe there's going to be some contract talks with Saar and his representatives to keep him at Watford long term. There have been some Watford supporters that have differences of opinion on whether or not Saar should stay. I'm one of those who thinks that we should actually try to get different value for Saar while we can, and then reinvest that money that we get from Saar into getting new players in. That's what I think we should do. If that's possible, I think we should do that. I don't know that we should keep Saar on. We've done that. We've been through that movie. Saar had delivered very well in 2021. It was a player of the season. And of course, he scored those excellent goals the season before against Liverpool, and of course, the wonder goal against West Brom this season. But outside of the very good 2021 season and the other events I've mentioned where Saar's concerned, it's been a very up and down situation for him. He's shorn of confidence. And I don't think it's necessarily a wise idea to keep a player around who is short on confidence. Reminds me of Richarlison, when Richarlison went forever, ever without scoring. And after a while, as good and as talented as Richarlison was when he was at Watford, if you're not producing and scoring them goals, what's the point? You've got to cut bait at some point. You have to. And so I think that's what's going to happen with Saar. I think he's going to end up going. If he doesn't go, it won't hurt you to keep Saar. It won't hurt you. But the question becomes, when will his confidence resurrect? That would be the issue I have. So far, Saar has not made an appreciable dent for Watford this season, except for that excellent wonder goal, which is going to end up being goal of the season, the one he scored at West Brom. But outside of that, last season he didn't do very much. He was injury riddled. He missed 4 months of the season almost with an injury. He went abroad and did worlds of wonders for the African Cup of Nations and for the World Cup qualifiers. Was very, very good in all of that. But at club level, he is not the same player. Do you think it's wise to keep Saar around? Do you think it is? He is capable of a bit of brilliance, but do you think it's wise to keep him around when there are other areas that we need to address? Certainly in the forward line, and Saar's part of that, still as of this moment. But do you really think it's wise to keep him when you can cut your losses now, get value now, whatever value that might be, and it might be less than it was, certainly would have been a couple of years ago? Or do you decide to stick? It's like stick or twist. Do you stick or do you twist? And I think you actually have to twist here and move Saar along. Now, look, there are Watford fans who would disagree with that view, and there are Watford fans who would agree with that view. But that is where we are now, and we need to get a striker in. Jamal Lowe, I've been hearing from some Watford supporters, got injured in the warm-up for Bournemouth tonight. in their calling in their Coca-Cola Cup, the Carabao Cup game. And if that, I mean, and that seems to be what's going on. So Jamal Lowe is out injured. That's the guy that Watford really needed, and that's the guy that they were rumored to be looking at, and he would have been that player. Now, they would score you 10 goals, maybe 10 to 15 at max, but you have to look at this, fellow Watford fans and supporters. This is going to be striker by committee. This is going to be a patchwork quilt all season. We just don't have the money at the club, the resources of the club to bring someone in who's going to get you 35, 40 championship goals. We don't have a Mitrovic who's going to score you 43 championship goals as he did for Fulham last season. We don't have an Ivan Toney who's going to get you 38, 39 goals as he did in the championship a couple of seasons ago. There's no striker like that that's around on the market anymore. You just don't have that kind of person. We don't have an Erling Haaland. We don't have the money for an Erling Haaland. So this is going to be patchwork quilt, goals here, goals there, hopefully. And if we had been able to get Jamal Lowe, and that not to say that deal is not impossible to do, but injured, his value is going to be a bit lower. There may be a way to get him through a loan situation. But the fact of the matter is that a Jamal Lowe, who is really good on the floor of the ball, runs off the shoulder of the last defender. He's someone who plays good ball to feet. He can hold up the ball for you a bit too, and even though he's got a low center of gravity, he's very nifty in tight areas. He's able to go at the goal. He's very direct. He plays all three areas of the front line, left, center, and right. He's someone who's dynamic. I saw him at Swansea, watched him a few times on television, watching him at Swansea. Very good. I mean, he likes the left side. He can play the right side as well, but he also can be direct. And Watford would need him in any of those areas. And I think he'd probably play more direct for Watford. And look, he would be in Rob Edwards too for the 3-5-2 if that were ever to materialize. But the fact of the matter is that we are short of options. And I think this club and the owner and the board knows and has known for a while now that we are short of options. I mean, the fact that we didn't do any transfer business beyond the people I've mentioned shows you we are in a financially cash-strapped situation. Watford Football Club is in a serious situation like that, and then we can't ignore that. So that influences what happens here. But I am saying, fellow Watford fans and supporters, that the critical questions must be raised. They must be raised, and fans have a right to raise them. We're not trying to subvert the club. We're not trying to do anything that's untoward. We have a right to voice our opinions, and the club listens. I think the club knows very much how a lot of Watford fans and supporters feel. Um, I know that the club definitely takes a look at the videos that you're watching here. I know the club definitely does pays attention to this with other podcasters and people who put content up for Watford on behalf of the fans and whatever else. So the club listens. As I said, the club is not these people. The people at the club are not demons. They're not bad people. They're good, decent people. What some of us are having an issue with is how things are being done in some areas. And I'm not asking the board to unveil their whole financial condition in front of the world. That's not what I'm asking about. I'm not asking that. But what I am asking, as a lot of fans are asking, is what's going on here? What's the story with the situation with Camera? What's that about? There are fans telling me, and I haven't done the numbers on this, fans telling me that there's been a £70 million profit. Now, look, I shouldn't be even saying that because I don't know if that's true or not. But there are fans expressing all kinds of views. And I know, again, I don't have the numbers, who are saying that they've made all this profit. And what's going on with what's going on the pitch? Where are we? So these are the concerns that some of the fans have. And the MK Dons result is a byproduct of all of this. It's not Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards is not to blame. We were told in the summer that Rob Edwards was going to have the backing of the board. He would be able to get the players that he wanted, and that Watford were going to develop the youth and put them in these spots. Now, look, they played a couple of them tonight. You saw what happened with, as I said, Adrian Blake and James Morris, who impressed in the FA Cup game against Leicester earlier this year when they were back in the Premier League, and Watford were knocked out by Leicester 4-1 at the King Power. James Morris had a terrific game. Jack Ford played in that game as well. He was on the bench tonight. And also, as I said, Adrian Blake tonight apparently was the bee's knees, played well. I didn't watch it, I only listened to it. But I want to just say one other thing. For all those Watford fans that did spend their hard earned money and travel to the Vic and all the rest of that, I feel your pain. I'm sorry that you did that, you know, and I'm very empathetic toward fellow Watford fans who spend their hard earned cash, you know, in a situation that we're in now in the UK. You look at this cost of living crisis, and you got people not knowing whether to eat or keep a roof over their head. And you still got fans, dedicated Watford Football Club fans and supporters, going out there, spending their hard earned money and going to support this club. And this is what we got tonight from what a pants of a performance that was. And I know some people will say, well, look, you lot are second place. You're unbeaten. Oh, you got nothing to complain about. Well, we actually do have something to complain about because we've been complaining about it for the last 4 or 5 seasons, if not more. We are raising critical concerns. That's all this is. It's not anything else. We're not moaning. We just want answers. There's no crime in that. There's no shame in that. We're voicing our concerns. Now, for me, I'm someone who will constructively criticize. I hope that people will also do that as well and not resort to any of the name calling or any of that nonsense. That's not going to get anything done. But what we need to do is really ask to raise these critical questions about the club, what it's doing, what some people are doing at the club with the decision making, because we're not happy with it. And that's all. That's all. You know, I could talk about Watford versus MK Dons for the next 15 to 25 minutes. It really wouldn't make much of a difference because the byproduct of this result is exactly what I've been talking about and what a lot of other Watford supporters who are very concerned about this have been talking about. And that is a situation at the club. The money is a serious and really delicate situation with the money. I think we all know that. I wish all of these folks the best who are making these decisions. I just want them to make decisions that are transparent to the Watford fan base. I just want them to make decisions that show that they really want to put this club forward on the right track. Because for the most part, I think the club is on the right track. For the most part, I think the ownership and the people in the board have done an excellent job with this club. What they do, how they work, the image they present. By and large, I'd say excellent. By and large, there are one or two things that we turn around and look around and go, what's all this about? This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.